my Red Cross journey actually started on 9/11, but I was not a member of Red Cross at the time. I had a very young son that was only a few months old when 9/11 happened. And living on the West Coast, like a lot of people, we woke up when the first plane had hit. The first plane had already hit the first tower, but a lot of people watched live when that second plane hit. And as soon as that second plane hit, my husband and I looked at each other. We both had work that day. We both called off work and said, we have to go down and get blood. Like, they're going to need blood. We don't know how many more planes are coming in. We don't know where they are, how many more people are going to need blood. At that point, obviously, we didn't know that was not going to be a great need for blood. But what caught me about it is we got down to the local blood services office, and there was a line around the block of people, of community members that came out, that their first thought when they saw that on television, that horrific scene on television, was to reach out to the community to do what they could to help. And I think that's a little bit of why we're all here now, is we're all looking for ways to help in our community, help our community members at the darkest times of their lives. So that really set my mind up for wanting to become a member of the Red Cross, once my son was old enough and I could have enough free time. So I joined in 2010, and my first national deployment was after Hurricane Irene hit the Catskills with horrific flooding, and didn't quite know what to expect at being the first time out for a national deployment, and did some work in staff services, and also, as often happens with deployments, I'm sure it's happened to most of you, you start off in one job but may end up in another as things are needed, different skills are needed, different jobs need to be done. So they really needed help on the herbs, getting into these little tiny hamlets in the middle of the Catskill Mountains that had gotten no services yet, partially to feed, partially to do some disaster assessment. So I went out on this herb, for about a week and a half. And what grabbed me and held me to Red Cross from that day forward was seeing these homes that were washed off their foundations, that were gone. I mean, just gone. And yet people had gone back to their homes that were off their foundations and set pet food bowls out and water for their pets that they were hoping would return after the floods. And for some reason, that just grabbed me, along with how much love and how much devotion I saw in other Red Cross volunteers to the mission, to helping people get through these darkest times of their lives. And so I've never looked back since 2011, and many deployments and different jobs later. Um, Now, like many of you, wear many hats within the Red Cross. My primary role is as the Pacific Division External Relations Lead. Um, but I also work at the regional level as the Northern California Coastal Region Tiffany Circle co-chair, as well as being the volunteer partner for the CEO for the Central Coast. Um, so we kind of all wear many hats here at the divisional, regional, and territorial level. My background originally was in forensic anthropology. I'm currently, because we didn't have enough to do during COVID, currently getting two more graduate degrees, one at Michigan State in criminal justice with a Homeland Security focus, and the second one at Georgetown, I'm almost done, in emergency and disaster management. And that has been a phenomenal program that has opened so many doors. And I think I will be able to utilize the skills learned to help with my work with the Red Cross. So you initially asked me to come and give a little overview of what external relations does and how we partner with the sheltering to make sure that we get services to clients that need them at at the highest rate possible and with the most empathy possible as well. So basically what external relations is within the Red Cross is all the outward facing activities. So things like government operations, which is what I typically will do during a deployment at this point. So government operations obviously is what it sounds like. We partner with our government partners at the federal, state, tribal, and territorial or local level to make sure that once something happens, once an incident occurs, we're able to respond in partnership and have a seamless or as seamless as possible response to it after an incident occurs. So those partnerships are really, really important. And as you originally said, some of our government partnerships are super strong. Others are a little more tenuous for whatever reason. So it's really important that we continue to build those partnerships up and make it um, easy to be a partner. We want to try to be as good of a partner to all of our partners as we can be, and that includes governmental partners. So from everybody from FEMA to your local county government, all your elected officials, everybody in between. So government operations is one activity. Another activity under external relations is public affairs. And the public affairs folks are the ones you typically see on air during doing interviews, explaining what the Red Cross is doing, how we do it, why we do it. But with that being said, I'm sure some of you have been approached by reporters and asked to do interviews. So at the end of this, we're going to do a couple of mock interviews with you as a shelter manager or shelter worker to see how you might answer certain questions that might come up when there is not a public affairs person around. A third area of activity that lies under external relations is community engagement and partnerships, or CEP. And some of you might be involved in that, whether you have a gap in it or not. So it's all those community partnerships that are so crucial that are not government related. So partnerships with Salvation Army, with World Central Kitchen, with all the rest of our feeding partners, partnerships with large and small companies from Walmart to the local grocery store. So all those partnerships, developing those partnerships, making sure that those partnerships are strong and stand the test of time so that when there is an incident, we can call upon our partners to help us respond to that incident and get services to those who need it. And then lastly, fundraising. And fundraising is obviously crucial to what we do. It's done differently depending on the incident itself. For instance, if there is a mass casualty incident, we do not do fundraising around a mass casualty incident. It just is not appropriate. So we do not do any active fundraising during after an incident like that. After a natural disaster, we do, however, to make sure that we have enough donor dollars to do our jobs and to provide services to our clients. So fundraising is a really important part of external relations. It's a very specialized part of external relations and probably kind of the least talked about, but it's obviously crucial for all of our work. Um, she asked me to also describe what a blue sky day would look like and a gray sky day would look like for me. So blue sky day, day to day, I am working with governmental partners mostly, as well as non-governmental partners to make sure that all those partnerships are solid. Checking in, going to exercises, running exercises. We have another one coming up that's part of Golden Guardian for Monterey County that they have very cutely called the Bronze Pelican, and that's coming up next week. So that should be interesting. It's their section of it. Um, I am also trying to, as we all are, trying to build capacity. We're forever looking for more qualified volunteers in all of those activities I mentioned earlier. So not to steal you from sheltering, but if you want to put on multiple hats and get into external relations, please do, in addition to your sheltering work, please do reach out to me, or if you have any questions after this, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Always looking for people that have the passion for external relations. So building capacity is definitely an important part, especially during the last few years where so many of us have been down with COVID. Not everybody has been able to deploy. And so we're really short staffed on a lot of these responses, including to Montana. We're having a hard time just because there's so much going on already. And we're just entering what we consider disaster season, although at this point it really is almost year round. So I'm not sure if we can call it a season anymore. So that's what I do during blue skies. And then during gray skies, I usually deploy to a government operations center, either an emergency operations center at the county level or a state operations center at the state level, and work as the representative for Red Cross, the person at the table that is in charge of what we call ESF 6, or Emergency Support Function 6, which you all know is mass care. So engaging with our governmental partners, non-governmental partners, and everybody at the Red Cross, including sheltering, which is such an enormously huge, important part of what we do, sheltering and feeding, to make sure that clients are getting the services they need in a timely manner. So when you get that call from me asking for numbers, it's probably because somebody asked me for numbers. I'm not just trying to nag and ask for numbers when you're busy doing 10 other things. I know you are, but sometimes we need those numbers in order to get extra services or extra um, material in time. So that's why you might have gotten calls from me at inopportune times. And I'm sorry if some of you have, but so one thing I thought that's so important and so crucial is the partnership between sheltering and external relations during a response is so important. And I always look to the 4 C's. So you have to communicate, you have to collaborate, you have to coordinate, and you have to cooperate in order to support each other to complete our tasks and to fulfill the mission that we're supposed to be fulfilling to serve our clients. Obviously, the first one, communication, is obvious, and yet sometimes we don't take a moment to take a breath and really communicate what we need properly or what we are offering properly. So we really need to exchange those ideas and information calmly and make sure that who we're communicating with understands what we're trying to either ask for or offer. Secondly, cooperation, so important. Independent goals with agreements that don't interfere with each other and that complement each other to provide better service to our clients. So cooperating between all the different activities that are going on at at lightning speed, right, during a response, but making sure that all the other activities are in cooperation so we can do our job better, so we can get services to our clients who need them. And then, sorry, coordinating. So actions taken by all of us, directed by our Red Cross mission, which I know we can all say in our sleep, but I'll read it again anyway. Our mission is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. We all know it. We all live that mission. But sometimes you have to kind of step back and remember, because you're so tired. You've been working for 10 days straight, 18 hours a day, and you kind of sometimes will lose sight of that. And centering yourself again on that mission, that we're all there to do the same thing. We're all there to help the clients who are literally going through the worst days of their lives. And that's what matters. So making sure we coordinate well in order to get the services to the people who need them the most. And then lastly, collaborating, which is obviously the process of creation that is collectively creating something new that would be difficult, if not impossible, to do just by ourselves. So by collaborating with each other across activities, across jurisdictions, it is so much easier to do the job that we need to do, to get the best ideas on the table, to get them out there, to make sure that we get those services out. And in times of crisis, it is important to look to each other for support and to look to each other for ideas on different ways that may not have been done before, but may work for this situation. Every disaster is different, every response is different. We all follow our standard operating procedures, but then above and beyond that, we need to kind of keep in mind that collaboration is really huge for being able to be successful in the job we're doing. So I I did a lot of sheltering work early on with the Red Cross, and so I know how important each and every one of you is to every operation we do. Sheltering is central to what Red Cross does. We do mass care, and sheltering and feeding are two of the most important components. So we need to work together across activities to make sure that we're getting those services out. And then I wanted to ask some of you if any of you have already done any interviews or spoken to media at any point during a deployment. Has anybody given an interview yet, or had to be the face of the Red Cross on a sheltering operation? Michael, can you tell me, and Angela, Michael, go ahead and go first. What was the situation, and what did you do, and what happened?
Oh, I didn't realize by identifying myself I was going to have to speak.
Oh,
Um, um, it's been a couple of times. Um, First time was during COVID when we were doing all um, virtual, and my executive director asked if I minded if two television reporters interviewed me. Well, I'd been on virtual deployment for less than an hour, so I didn't really know quite what I could talk about. um, so she said, well, just talk about deployments altogether and just picture it as being virtual. And I guess I did a good job because she asked me to interview 3 more times over December of 2020 during the wildfires. And I've since spoken to her and said, I really think I will do radio. I don't know that I've got a TV face and body, though.
oh. Well, your icon is adorable. Is that your dog?
He is. That's Oscar, my service dog, and he's deployed a number of times in a number of positions, and he's looking forward to deploying a lot this year if we have to.
I bet he's wonderful in deployments.
He is a client magnet. People come over and start petting him, and then they start talking about their concerns, their feelings. He's really wonderful at that, and I think that's probably one of the things we do best. We did a simulation yesterday up at our county fairgrounds, and even though it was a simulation, they brought in ringers to be the clients, and people were coming out of their roles to actually talk about things that were going on in their lives with Oscar. It was an interesting experience. He's just a great dog.
Yeah, I can't tell you how wonderful that is that you can bring your service animal with you and he can provide his own form of service, and that's what's so special about the Red Cross.
And he's
And
also
I've seen therapy dogs come into shelters, and you can just feel people's blood pressure go down as soon as they start petting them, as soon as they start talking to the handler. Even just it's like medicine to a lot of people. What were you going to say, Michael?
I was going to say I also pimp him out for blood drives. Anywhere I go, if somebody wants to pet him outside of a Red Cross um, event, they say, "Can I have a pet?" I said, "Sure, you get a pet for a pint. If you promise to sign up for a blood drive, you can pet him all you want." And it usually works out pretty well. And I see Alan Undercoffer just made a comment. And
Michael, here's your reminder.
Alan, I've worked with. He is a rock star supervisor. He is awesome, and I've been so fortunate to work with him twice. And so I thank him for his kind words.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everything you do, and thank Oscar too. Amazing. And there were a couple more hands up. I can't see the whole screen. I do see Scott has his hand up. Scott up? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience, but a lot of times I'm the shelter manager in small shelters. So we don't get the possibility of having, an external relations person there or a public affairs person. So usually I'm the face of the Red Cross.
And can you give an example of an interview you may have done and how it worked out? And what
usually first of all, the media will walk into the shelter and I have to escort them out of the dormitory. And then I try to mend fences and just give them, what we're doing and how we can help others. With the emotional care and the disaster health services and all the different mass care that we have. And unfortunately, I mean, living in small communities on, you get all kinds of donations that are unsolicited. And so you got to have some tact there to try to tell people, well, can you take them down to the resale store because we don't really have space, and distribute them out of there. But yeah, it's been fun.
Often there will be partners that do crop up that will take unsolicited donations to redistribute.
Right.
But sometimes it is a problem at shelters with people just
I've got them. I already got the 2 counties I cover. I already have covered for who's going to take donations. So
that's wonderful. That's great. Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
And there were more hands up. Or did they go down? Georgia.
Okay. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Oh, Georgia. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm following you and your COVID. So there we go. As I am part of the public relations team, I'm actually part of the APAT team. But I just want to tell everybody that the interviews that are done at the shelters by the workers are probably the most sincere and the most well-received interviews that Red Cross does. I just want to say thanks for people being willing to step up.
Thank you, Georgia. And she's so right. And I've seen it time and time again where the shelter workers are the ones that are doing the interviews, and they are so sincere from the heart, and they really do put the viewer in the picture. And I did not, Georgia, just to clarify, Georgia may have followed me with COVID, but I did not give it to Georgia. So it's everywhere, right?
Not.
Yep. Thank you, Georgia, for that. It's so true. The shelters are a very special and almost sacred place, and the interviews that are given there are really important to our clients as well as to our organization. So, Angela, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. I too am dealing with COVID, so
Well,
sorry if my voice is almost gone. I've actually I've had been interviewed several times by TV stations, by national when the PR teams come out. In fact, I have one currently that I just did. They're waiting for a picture, but I've been asked many times about my experiences, how clients react, how to deal with the COVID situation. And our public affairs person, Steve Walsh, who is wonderful, has helped guide me through these and will actually point people in my direction for interviews. So I've been very lucky in that aspect. But yeah, basically, it's just basically telling our story, telling,
yeah.
what we do, what our mission is. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Angela. That's perfect. And Steve is a rock star, and he's
He
amazing.
is. Oh, and
He
Alan
really
is
is.
as well. Alan is as well. I mirror, the other sentiments as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope you feel better soon.
Thank
Um,
you. I hope to
yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's
So
been
Angela
interesting.
mentioned she made a really good point about speaking about what you're doing, what the mission is, and what you yourself are doing. You don't try to speak to everything that's going on because you can't, but you can speak to what you are doing within the operation and how that is impacting our clients. Um, were there any other hands up? I can't see the whole screen.
So we have a question in the chat.
Sure.
Scott is asking, a select group of
Nice
volunteers
to
were
hear you
tasked.
again. So I
Go ahead, Mike.
Go
um
ahead.
so the interview couple times, but one thing I wanted to mention also was, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. So Hurricane Harvey in Houston, we had a civic group come in, a whole bunch of them, on their phone. So it wasn't a true interview, but truly they were actually trying to catch us up, and catch me saying something that they were going to then use against us was the plan. So I think just also recognizing that sometimes, you'll have people who will try to secretly record you,
Interesting.
not getting frustrated at these people, is critical because
How did,
the bad publicity can take a really long time to go away.
that is very true. How did you handle that situation?
Well, so as a group, they wanted to hand out, 20 pizzas for 700 people. And they kept saying that we weren't doing anything for the people in our shelter. So I actually gave them a little tour of the public areas of what we had and what we were doing. And I was like, basically just like, I get it, you want to help, but here's all the things we're doing for the people here. Here are some organizations that you might be able to help with, all your UDM that you brought and all these things. So instantly deflated the situation, and they were able to serve some other areas of the community that may not have been served as well as the clients in our shelter. So just not getting frustrated with them and telling them what we were doing and giving them a little show, and they were happy.
Very important point. Yeah, not getting frustrated and not engaging in kind of toxic behavior or toxic speech is an important, very important point. Thanks, Mike. And you said there was a question in the chat.
Right. So I believe Scott is asking a question earlier, said a selected group of volunteers were tasked to do a district. What does and does not Red Cross do? Several months ago, and our report was taken over by the Pacific Division External Relations. Has anything been improved yet? Both government and community partners are really asking for this fact sheet.
For the fact sheet on, can you repeat that?
Both the government and community partners are really asking for this fact sheet regarding what does and what does Red Cross do and what does Red Cross not do.
I will check in to see if that has been updated or not. I'm not aware if it has. So I will check into that and get back to you, and then you can send it out to the group. Does that sound good?
Of course, thank you. Cynthia also mentioned that she had an interview for that call. She said she hated. So, everyone can do interviews for heroes and just, can get in front of the camera and be comfortable.
And it is kind of a stressful thing, but interviews are kind of, they're going to happen, especially if you're a shelter manager. Sometimes as a shelter worker, they're going to happen. You don't have to agree to do them if somebody asks you to, but it's kind of nice to engage the community and engage the media in a positive way. Because we definitely, like Mike mentioned, sometimes, there are stories that are real or not, sometimes complete rumors that get out there in social media that we then within public relations have to manage and handle and try to walk back, especially if it's a rumor that is not true. And it does happen. I'm sure you've all seen it happen, and so it definitely does. It does happen. So, who would like to do a mock interview really quick? Anybody up for it? Quiet. Somebody out there.
Okay, I'm game. This is Boo
Okay,
and
great.
T2.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you come on? Can you turn your camera on? Are you comfortable with that or not?
My camera won't turn on.
Oh,
It,
that's
it
okay.
has,
We can,
I mean,
no
I would
problem.
put, but my camera doesn't seem to want to turn on. It's cut off. I mean, there's a line through it, which isn't usual.
Interesting.
You
Oh,
know
that's,
what?
Rick just raised their hand.
Oh, nothing. Okay, prepare yourself. I'm not coiffed.
That's okay.
Okay, there you go.
I am not either. So thank you for volunteering.
Sure.
So, hi, can you let me know your name and can you spell it for me as well?
Sure. I'm Boo, B-O-O, Hague, H-A-G-E. Some days it's Hag, it's pronounced Hague.
Hey, hi, Boo. So I'm Megan, and I'm from Channel 6, and we're standing in front of this shelter that was set up after the fire that just occurred in the county. Can you tell me what you're doing for the people who are at the
As
shelter?
far as what, can you be a little clearer about what you're asking? Red Cross does a number of things.
So I'm just asking what you're doing
What I'm doing,
at the
I do a
yeah,
variety of things here. Yeah, I do a variety of things here at the shelter. All of which is really wonderful, helping a lot of the people that are here. Anywhere from working in the health section to public relations and to registering a variety of areas.
And how are you feeling that the people that are in the shelter are dealing with the situation that they're in?
Everyone's doing the best they can. We've got a great group of Red Cross people that serve them well, and we're always looking for ways to help them feel better about anything that they might need help with. We've got a great group here working with them.
That's wonderful to hear. I see Red Cross at every disaster that I go to as a reporter, and I know that Red Cross does do a lot of really good work in the communities they work in. We did, however, get notice on social media that last night your shelter clients didn't have dinner. Is that true? And if so, why?
This is something I'll need to look into and get back with you on. I don't have that detailed information. I know we do the best we can with every situation that we're in, but I'd be happy to check with you further on that at a later point.
Thank you very much, Boo, for letting us talk to you today.
You're very welcome.
So,
thank you.
She did a great job of managing that last question that could have gone sideways really, really quick. If you do not know the answer, do not make it up. Do exactly what Boo just did and
Run with
say, I'm not sure, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you. So thank you, Boo, for letting me interview you. That you did a great job. Awesome. Awesome job. Anybody else? Anybody else game? I know some of you are seasoned professionals. Georgia. Michael.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and be interviewed.
Great. Awesome. Hi, can you first tell me your name and spell it for me?
Yes, my name is Michael Pritchard. That's Pritchard.
Great. And I noticed that you have a dog at your side. Who is he and what is he doing here?
Well, this is Oscar Knopfler, and Oscar Knopfler is my service dog. He's also just a great therapy dog for other people, even though he is a trained service dog. Um, I'm so fortunate to have him, and he is just such an asset inside of a shelter situation.
And he's adorable as well. So what are you doing at the shelter? What's your role here?
Oh, my personal role, I am a shelter associate.
And in that, so what do you do for the survivors of this fire?
Well, I've been sitting up near the registration desk and talking with the people who haven't yet registered, finding out what's going on, if we can get them snacks, if we can get them some water, and basically just be there to answer questions, but not to gather information. That's something that the people up at registration will do. So hopefully just being a friendly, kind, warm face for them.
That's wonderful. So we've heard that as this fire gets worse, you may need to evacuate the shelter and move the people that are in it somewhere else. Is that true?
Well, there are a lot of rumors that fly around when there is disasters. I have not heard that, but that doesn't mean that it's not true or accurate. Um, I can get back to you on that, but I certainly, at the level I am, I would not have that information.
Thank you so much, Michael, for speaking with me tonight. And thanks to Oscar for everything he does as well. Again, Michael handles that question really, really, really well. If you don't know, don't say, don't make it up. Just say that you'll ask the people that may know, and then get back to people. Are there any questions or any specific things that you want to know about external relations and how we work together with sheltering during a response and recovery? Anything else you have questions about? I'm an open book. So it's a quiet group tonight. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions from anybody.
John, Holly, do you want to come off mute and share your experience?
Holly?
Everyone is so shy today. Okay, anyways, I see that Cynthia has a question. Cynthia is asking, what is the best way to make sure external relations obtains information dropped or posted at the local shelter about resources, like churches helping financially or laundry assistance? Everything posted for the clients at the shelters rarely gets connected with ER until SRT starts up. SRT is Shelter Resident Transition Team.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to going back to what I was speaking about earlier about communication and communication skills and that whole the 4 C's of communication. keeping that open dialogue with your supervisors, and with your then the supervisors will also keep an open dialogue with their supervisors. If you're not getting the information you feel like you need, and you've gone to your supervisor, um, and you have the IAP, there are phone numbers on there for all the different activities, and some people frown on being called for certain things, but if you think that there's something important that needs to get out, some important information, and you don't feel that it's getting taken care of in a timely manner, there's no reason not to reach out to the appropriate person to get that information to the people who need it. And likewise, sometimes it's hard for, like, when I'm at the State Operations Center, sometimes it's hard to have a really good um, tack on what is going on at every single shelter in the state, especially if there's power outages or internet interruptions because of the incident. So sometimes good communication is unfortunately lagging, and good information flow it does unfortunately sometimes lag as well. Obviously, that's more of a problem in a catastrophic incident where you don't have power, or you don't have internet, and we were all reverting to paper. Um, but um, keeping those communication channels going and open, um, and not stepping on toes, but being steadfast in the information that you need to do your job, to get the clients the services that they need. There's if your intent is good, I don't think you're going to have too many people pushing back on information flow. Any other questions?
Yes, so we have a question. At what point should we contact APIO to determine if an interview is appropriate or not?
Anything national, automatically you get in touch with the APIO. Any larger outlet, either written or television, you definitely need to. Um, Even local stations, if you are not the shelter manager, you need to talk to the shelter manager before you engage in that interview, just to make sure that everything's being done appropriately. And obviously, nobody's getting filmed inside the dormitory or anything like that. Did that answer the question?
I think so. So Cynthia has a follow-up question. As a shelter worker, what is the best thing or the best method to so that we can do to help you to make sure that ER gets the information that you need? Do you want a text, a phone call, an email? How do you want your information to be passed along to you?
However you think is the best way to pass it along, depending on the urgency of the information. So, like you mentioned earlier, that during 2020, during the big fires in 2020, she called me late at night, and I know I was asleep when you first called, um, but it was an important call. You needed to call me because we needed to get that squared away before the next day. So that was appropriate. Obviously, you wouldn't call somebody in the middle of the night if it was something that was a low priority. But feeding for the next day is obviously a high priority issue. You need to make sure you get that information to who needs it, to make sure that it gets in the pipeline to get done. So you kind of have to use your own common sense on what form of communication to utilize, be it text, phone, email, um, or walking across the room. Sometimes people take for granted that everybody knows what's going on that's in the same space, and that's not necessarily the truth. So walking across the room and just introducing yourself and to new people, and saying hi, how, are you okay? Are you settling in okay? Will make that the newer responder really feel more at ease. Likewise, if you're the newer responder, walking up to your supervisor and saying, "Hi, I'm Megan. I'm here to help. What would you like me to do?" Just breaks down barriers right off the bat. So the communication style is, I think, just the more information and communication flow in a response, the better. That way we don't get in problems with miscommunication or lack of communication, lack of information, which only leads to problems down the road. So yeah, I think it just depends on the priority of that information. Any other questions?
Yes, so Dre is asking that do you interview with Red Cross signage behind you so that it is in the camera's, view, or do you have any other tips or the locations of interview that where should it take place?
So if you're at a shelter, and you can frame it so that Red Cross or Red Cross vehicle or signage of some kind is in the shot, that is helpful because it's brand recognition, and brand recognition helps. Obviously, you're not going to be interviewing inside the dormitory. You'd be probably either outside, or depending on the environmental conditions, you might be in a different room, different space. With COVID, it's also changed things up a lot, about how and where we can communicate. Um, but yes, definitely branding in the background is good, because we do want people to know that we're doing the work, and also that where to go to get services if they need services on the other side. So explaining who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and what the space is important.
Thank you. We'll
Anything
take one
else?
last question. Last question is from Cynthia. Some counties require that the media check in with them first and make an appointment to go to the shelter with a PIL, Public Information Officer. How do we know as a shelter worker if this instruction is for the county that we're working with?
That's a great question. You would probably have to go to your supervisor, ask your supervisor. They may already know. If they don't know, then they're going to check with their supervisor or somebody in external relations who would know, somebody in public affairs who would know.